Hey everybody, welcome to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today is Friday, January 22nd. I'm Sean Duhimmel from the Mass Retirees Association. Thank you so very much for joining with us again this week. Now this week's episode, sort of like last week's, I want to focus on healthcare. Before I get into that, just let me thank those of you who took the time to reach out after last week's episode. And for those of you who watched it, you know that I was joined by our association's insurance coordinator, Cheryl Stillman. We talked about different ways that retirees can save some money by utilizing different aspects of your health insurance plan. So whether it's diabetic supplies, durable medical equipment, hearing aids, all those sorts of things. And Cheryl's phone, ever since that episode appeared a week ago, her phone's just blown up, which she is absolutely delighted. Like many of you, she's been largely stuck at home for the past 10 and a half, almost 11 months. She welcomes the opportunity to interact with our members and help you resolve your problems, whether it's questions or problems you're having with your insurance. This is what we're here for, so don't hesitate to reach out to Cheryl if you have any questions or need any assistance whatsoever when it comes to your health insurance. Now, to piggyback on what we were talking about last week, I want to update you with the latest information coming out of the state's Group Insurance Commission. At the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about COVID-19 and the vaccinations and some steps our association is taking to try to assist retirees in that process and be a conduit for accurate, up-to-date, breaking information here in Massachusetts to get it to you so you can better understand where you fit in that overall process. But first and foremost, I have some really good news to report this week. Just yesterday, Thursday morning, the GIC, the Group Insurance Commission, held its January meeting, which traditionally is the plan design meeting for the year. What I mean by plan design are copayments and deductibles and the different aspects, the details of your insurance plans. Now, the GIC insures about 460,000 people who are either retired or dependents or survivors of either state retirees or active employees. So it's almost 500,000 people insured under the GIC, which is a huge plan. The other portion of our membership, you receive your health insurance benefits from the city or town that you retired from. Now, all of you are related in this process, and this is important. What policies the GIC adopts very quickly become the policies and procedures at the local level. So even though you might be retired from the city of Boston or from the town of Plymouth, and you receive your health insurance benefits from those communities, you are still indirectly affected by what happens at the state level. And state law also allows cities and towns to set their copayments and deductibles in their so-called plan design at the same level of the GIC without any need to negotiate with the unions. So this was a huge change that took place about 10 years ago, and it made what happens at the state level just that much more important. Now again, as I said, we have some really good news to report. First of all, if you're a Medicare enrollee, or if you will be a Medicare enrollee during the upcoming year, and what I'm talking about is fiscal year 22, which begins on July 1st. You know that the state fiscal year and the municipal fiscal year all begin on July 1st. So FY22 starts on July 1st. For FY22, the GIC announced today that they are not considering any increases in copayments or deductibles or making plan design changes for FY22. So that's great news for the tens of thousands of retirees who are enrolled in the various Medicare plans offered by the GIC. But what about those of you who are not eligible for Medicare or too young for Medicare? You're enrolled in the same health insurance plans as the active employees, the traditional health insurance plans. And the GIC today talked about 4 potential benefit design changes to the non-Medicare plans. However, and this is very important, the staff of the GIC, including Executive Director Matt Vino, and the consultants hired by the GIC, the expert consultants to help them make these decisions and do all the research and pull all this information together, all of those folks strongly recommended that they would not support increasing copayments and deductibles or making any kind of significant plan design changes for FY22. And that's very important because typically speaking, the GIC Commission, which I believe holds 17 members at this point, they tend to follow the recommendations of the staff, who are medical experts, healthcare experts, insurance experts. They know their stuff, and they tend to follow their lead. So for the fact that they have said publicly that we don't support these changes is really a big deal. But the commission has to do its due diligence. They put everything on the table as all part of making the plan design decisions for next year. So today, those recommendations were put forward. At the February GIC meeting, the commission will take a vote and approve what your insurance benefits are going to look like for the coming year. Now, what we expect to happen, again, is that the status quo is going to remain. All of the current insurance plans will be offered again for FY22. The current co-payments and deductibles will remain in place and frozen most likely for FY22. We will not know until March, however, what your monthly premiums are going to be. That's the last step of this process. And at the December GIC meeting, the GIC gave a range of somewhere between 4 and 8% is what they were really anticipating for a on average premium increase for FY22. Now that's a pretty big range, but it's also consistent with what we're seeing across Massachusetts and really around the country when it comes to healthcare. Now, we believe that that increase will probably be somewhere in the 4 to 5% range, maybe 6% at the end of the day, but we won't know that for sure until March. But what has us concerned isn't necessarily what's going to happen for FY22. It's what might happen in the future down the road, a year or two down the road. Now, of the potential changes that were discussed at today's meeting, 2 of them are a bigger deal than the other 2. One would be increasing the deductible for if you sought care through an emergency room. I believe right now the deductible is the copayment is $150 per visit. That gets waived if you're admitted to the hospital. And the recommendation or proposal for the future could be increasing that copayment to $200 or $250. More importantly was the final proposal, which would be to create a 10% co-insurance for GIC enrollees who are not part of the Medicare plan. And the way that would work, if it were ever adopted, and we are dead set against any type of co-insurance plan coming into the GIC or at the local level, that would be a huge departure, huge change from the way that benefits have traditionally existed here in Massachusetts. And we view that as a significant step backwards, and we would fight tooth and nail to prevent that from happening. But the way it would work, if it ever came into play, would be that the GIC would only cover 90% of the healthcare costs, with the enrollee having to pick up the other 10% beyond copayments and deductibles. Again, that's not something that we envision going into effect for the coming fiscal year, but it is something that's being talked about as a potential change off in the future. And we would not want to see that happen, so I'm very thankful that this information is getting out there. The GIC has been very transparent in the types of things that are being considered. And again, I do not want to give anyone the impression that this decision's been made, because it certainly has not. This is very, very early in the discussion process, and they were just looking at what types of changes, if they chose to, they can make going forward. But for now, the really good news is we don't anticipate any changes of any substance taking place with your health insurance benefits for the coming fiscal year, which is very important to us, and I'm sure even more important to you. Now, finally, as I mentioned, we have some information on COVID-19, and in particular, specifically, the vaccination process. Earlier this week, Frank Valeri, our association president, and I sent a letter to Governor Baker requesting 2 things. One, that all adults age 65 and over be prioritized to receive the vaccination as soon as possible. Now, we did not suggest a time frame. I know that a big part of the challenge of getting this vaccine to everyone is the supply chain. The pharmaceutical companies simply cannot make enough vaccine quickly enough to get this out as soon as we would all like to see it. Progress is being made, and we anticipate over the next 4 to 6 weeks that production process will likely improve, and we will be receiving vaccination deliveries on a weekly basis that are much larger than we're currently receiving. At the same time, Massachusetts, along with all of the other states and really every country in the world, continues to roll out and improve and acknowledge the process that's going to have to go forward of administering the vaccine to millions of people. Here in Massachusetts, we have almost 7 million residents of our state. And I can only imagine the difficulty from a logistics standpoint of rolling that out to 7 million people in a very quick and efficient manner. Steps are being taken. The email that you will receive along with this video today contains a couple of links to get information to you so you can help be informed and make decisions on your part of, first of all, when you might be eligible to receive the vaccine, and even more importantly, how you go about receiving the vaccine. Over the past week, we've been hearing from more and more members who have concerns about the process, but most important, are confused by the lack of information, or at least the lack of clear information as to how do you get vaccinated. Do you go to your doctor? Do you go to a hospital? Do you go to your local CVS? All of that information just now is starting to become available. And again, in the email that accompanies this video, we lay out or provide some links to information that was provided to us from Governor Baker's office this week to the public as to some of the changes that are coming about and how they're going to roll out this vaccine. The other big news with this week is that Massachusetts is now fully engaged in what's known as Phase 1. Phase 1 has included vaccinating healthcare professionals, frontline workers in the hospitals, certainly our public safety, first responders, police, firefighters, EMTs, ambulance crews, paramedics, all of the folks who we rely upon day in and day out to keep us safe. We have to make sure that they're kept safe. And over the past couple of weeks, more and more first responders have been receiving their vaccination, and we are now fully engaged here in Massachusetts with Phase 1. And that's good news for all the rest of us. That means that Phase 2, which will expand the availability of the vaccine to more people, Phase 2 we expect will begin over the next week or two, hopefully by the first week of February, if not sooner. And what we are hoping for is that we get to a process here in Massachusetts where everyone age 65 and over, regardless of your health condition, will have access to that vaccine. The sooner the better, and be part of Phase 2, which I believe is what's planned. In addition to that, we have also offered, and we've done this all along, but to partner with the Baker administration and be a conduit for information directly to you. We want to make sure that you receive the most accurate, up-to-date information in a timely manner, so again, you can make decisions of what you need to do to stay safe and keep your family safe. So that's what we're going to continue to do. We'll get you information ASAP once it becomes available. But in the meantime, stay safe, keep your family safe, keep the faith. As you know, and you continue to remind all of us here at Mass Retirees, we've gotten through more difficult situations than this in the past, and we're going to get through this one again together, working together. So thank you so much for tuning in again this week. We'll be back to you at the end of next week, which will be the last episode for January. But in the meantime, be well and stay safe. Thank you so much.